Hi everyone, how you going? Hope you're having a fantastic day where you are out there in the world. Okay, Tartary, aka Tartaria, empire hidden in history. It was bigger than Russia once. Cool vanillas. Is that the movie Fifth Element? um, I've found a few different articles I'm going to share. So, Tartary, a vast country in the northern parts of Asia, bounded by Siberia on the north and west. This is called the Great Tartary. The Tartars who lie south of Muscovy in Siberia are those Ashkran, Circassia, sorry if I say it wrong, and Dagestan. Situated northwest of the Caspian Sea, the Kalmyk Tartars who lie between Siberia and the Caspian Sea, the Uzbek Tartars and the Mongols who lie north of Persia and India, and lastly those of Tibet who lie northwest of China. Encyclopedia Britannica, Volume 3, Edinburgh, 1771, page 887. So here it is, Tartary and the Great Tartary, the Tartaries. I'll leave these links in the description. So now compare to description given by Wikipedia. Tartary, Latin Tartaria, or Great Tartary, Latin Tartaria Magna, was a name used from the Middle Ages until the 12th century to designate the great tract of the northern and central Asia stretching from the Caspian Sea to the Ural Mountains to the Pacific Ocean, settled mostly by Turco-Mongol peoples after the Mongol invasion and subsequent Turkic migrations. And to add some credibility, or to take away some, the story below you can find an expert from the CIA document declassified in 1998 and created in 1957. CIA Tartar. Or let us take the matter of history, which, along with religion, language, and literature, constitutes the core of the people's cultural heritage. Here again, the communists have interfered in a shameless manner. For example, on the 9th of August 1944, the Central Committee of the Communist Party, sitting in Moscow, issued a directive order, the party's Tatar Provincial Committee, to proceed to a scientific revision of the history of Tartaria, to liquidate serious shortcomings and mistakes of the nationalistic character committed by individual writers and historians in dealing with Tartar history. In other words, Tartar history was to be rewritten, let us be frank, was to be falsified in order to eliminate references to great Russian aggressions and hide the facts of the real course of the Tartar-Russian relations. And this was no isolated case. In every Muslim area within the USSR, historians on orders of the Communist Party have rewritten history to distort the facts so that the Russians appear always in good light. Needless to say, histories which present the facts truthfully have been withdrawn and destroyed, so that in the present and future generations of Muslims are in favour denied the chance of learning the true facts of their nation's past. So here's a link to the CIA website. On the third day we come in solitude upon it, imposing a majestic monument of antiquity, a large city utterly abandoned. Such remains of ancient cities are no unfrequent occurrence in the deserts of Mongolia, but everything connected with their origin and history is buried in the darkness. Oh, what a sadness does such a spectacle fill the soul. The ruins of Greece, the superb remains of Egypt, all these, it is true, tell of death, all belong to the past. Yet when you gaze upon them, you know what they are. You can retrace in memory the revolutions which have occasioned their ruins and the decay of the city around them. Descend into the tomb, wherein was buried alive in the city of Herculaneum. You find there, it is true, gigantic skeleton, but you have within you historical associates wherewithin to galvanize it. But of these old abandoned cities of Tartary no tradition remains. They are tombs without an edifice, amid solitude and silence, uninterrupted except when the wandering Tartars halt for a while within the ruined enclosures, because there the pastures are richer and more abundant. Hughes Travels in Tartary, Tibet and China, Volume 1, Page 71, English translation. Mr. Hugh mentions that he found a Mongol shepherd among the ruins who knew no more of the place than that it was called the Old Town, in a country inhabited by wandering pastoral tribes. Such a state of incurious and satisfied ignorance respecting the ancient monuments and buildings may exist, but where there are persons having a fixed habitation in the vicinity of striking relic of antiquity and living as its neighbours, their curiosity respecting it as it exited, and if the true history of it has perished, a fabulous legend soon springs up to satisfy the cravings for the appetite of information. 1855, source there. So today we have a certain appearance of related stereotypes. I think we're very much off there. It looks like Tartary was multi-religious, multicultural. One of the reasons I think it is so tremendously disparity between what the leaders like Genghis Khan, Butte Khan, Timur, Akala, Tamerlan looked into the contemporary artists versus the appearance attributed to them today. And here's how the 15th century books saw these. Totally different. So there's Timur, Tamerlan. Tamerlan, Emperor of Tartar, called the wrath of God and terrorizer of the world. He overthrew and took prisoner Razet, great empire of the Turks. Something him in something in an iron cage. His army consisting of 100,000 men, might be a million men. He also congratulated Meapol of Balaam with the kingdom of Persia. He died in 1402. House is playing up. Well, I could not find any 17th, 18th century Bhutan Khan images, but apparently in Turkey we have a few busts of the following gentlemen. Batu Khan is one of them. The other reason why I think Tartary had to be multi-religious and multicultural is the vastness during the various monuments of time. For example, 1652, Tartary appears to have control over North America. The official history of a major world power which existed as late as the 19th century, Tartary was a country with its own flag, its own government, and its own place on the map. Its territory was huge, but somehow quietly incorporated into Russia and some other countries. This country you can find on the maps predating the second half of the 19th century. Google Books shows how Tartary was quietly put away. Yet, sometime in the 18th century, Tartary Muscovy was the biggest country in the world, 3.5 million square miles. Tartary had its own language, flag, crest, its own emperor, and of course its own people. Mad Anna Bishop, encouraged by the great success of attending her previous concerts and by desire of many families, musical amateurs, will have the honour of giving her second and last grand musical festival at the Caros Salon on Wednesday evening, February 14th. Upon the occasion she will appear in the grand mythological scene as the goddess of liberty in her beautiful costume and sing La Mazerelle, assisted by a full and efficient invisible chorus. Madame Eleanor Bishop will also by desire sing her favourite ballads, John Anderson, My Joe, The Last Rose of Summer. The entertainment will commence with her elaborated musical, fantastical scenes of circumstances entitled La Sogoyo, in which Mad AB will sustain 7 distinct characters in appropriate costumes and singing in 6 different languages: Russian, German, English, French, Tartarian, and Italian, comprising of the most brilliant gems of popular operas. Mr. Boschke, a harpist to the Queen of England and formerly director of Her Majesty's Italian Opera House, London, and the San Carlo, Naples, will perform on the harp with with double action on metallic bases, three of his most favorite pieces. So that was 13th of February 1849, page 3. The characters are of such a nature that they are equally legible either backwards or forwards. To explain myself, if a Tartar presents you an open book and you read it leisurely, another person who only feeds the letters the wrong end upwards shall read faster than you and overtake you when you hesitate. Wherefore it is impossible to write anything in the Tartarian language, but the whole in the same room, who are anyway within the view of the writing, may overlook you, and especially if your characters are large. Notwithstanding all this, there is not Tartar, but prefers his native language to all others, and thinks it is the most beautiful and copious of the world. It is in general fable of mankind. Every one has a good opinion of himself, his country and language, and the persuasion that no other nation possesses the same advantages, brand them all alike with the name of barbarous, father, Parian, and whom am obliged their remarks on the Tartarian language had no little trouble to weed this prejudice out of his mind of the emperor's eldest son. This prince, who was about 35, so he's about 35 years of age, imagined that it was impossible to render even the words of his native language, much less the majesty of his style, into any of the barbarous tongues. For such, though wanting of knowing them, he called them the European languages. Therefore, being desirous to make a trial of for his satisfaction, he ordered me, says Father Parian, to wait on him one day in his tent. I must write to Father Serious, said he, to recommend an important affair to him, but he didn't understand the Tartarian language. I did dictate what I had to say, and you shall have translated it for me into Latin, which, as you have often told me, is a Latin. So Tartary similar to Latin. Genealogy of the king of the former Tartar enters. So it goes on about the descendants. Remarkable history. The flag and the crest of the Tartary have an owl depicted on it, and the emperor's flag contained a griffin on a yellow background. There were multiple publications listing the country of Tartary and the flag of crest. Some of those publications come out as late as 1865. China and Tartary are similar. And most of these maps now have that star on them and a red, white, and blue, and red, white, and blue. On the flags are, I think they're the Orion or Cyrus group. Um, It's also worth mentioning that the British flag table of 1783, there are three different flags listed as a flag of Tsar of Moscow. There is also an imperial flag of Russia, as well as multiple naval flags, and all of them preceded by a flag of the Viceroy of Russia. Significance of the Viceroy is in definition of the term. A Viceroy is a regional official who runs a country, colony, city, a province, or subnational state in the name of the representative of the monarch of the territory. Our official history will probably say that the Tsar of Russia, who would appoint a viceroy to Moscow, I have reasons to doubt that. Why is the flag of the viceroy of Moscow positioned prior to any other Russian flag? Could it be the viceroy of Moscow was superior to the Tsar and was supervising how this Tartarian possession was being run? There is a growing opinion in Russia that the French invasion of Russia played out according to a different scenario. The one where the Tsar Alexander I and Napoleon were on the same side. Together they fought against Tartary, essentially France and St. Petersburg against Moscow Tartary, and there is a strong circumstantial evidence to support such a theory. Questions to answer. St. Petersburg was the capital of Russia, yet Napoleon chose to attack Moscow. Why? And it appears in 1912 that it was a totally different recollection of events of 1812. How else could you explain the commemorative 1912 medals honouring Napoleon? And specifically the one with Alexandra I and Napoleon on the same medal. Below the medal states something similar to strength is in unity, the will of God, firmness of royalty, love for homeland and of people. I have a hard time imagining below two guys on the same medal in love and unity. Similarly between the Russian and French uniforms and more different uniforms involved, but the idea remains they were ridiculously similar. And how did they fight each other after dark? There was one additional combat asset officially available to the Russians in the War of 1812, and that was Milita. It does appear that the so-called Milita was, in reality, the army of Tartary fighting against Napoleon at Alexandria I. So these are the Russian volunteer military units, the Tartarians. The Russian nobility in St. Petersburg spoke French well into the second half of the 19th century. The general explanation was that it was the trend of the time and fashion. Google contains multiple opinions on the matter. Following the same logic, USA, Britain, and Russia should have picked up German after the victory in World War II. This one I just ran into. Napoleon Alexander the Great still studying in the map of Europe. The jury is out on this one, but there's some indicators that Tartary was present on the North American continent as well. There are obviously no official historical accounts, but some bits and pieces of information suggest that. The 16th century Tartarian king Tarax ruled Cuvia Regium in North America. The below's text source 1834 American Antiquities and the Discoveries in the West. Having achieved this conquest, the Tartars and their descendants had probably a much harder task to perform. This was to subdue the more ferocious and warlike European colonists who had entrenched and fortified themselves in a country after the arrival of the Tartars, or Indians as they call them now, in particular parts they had settled themselves in along the region of the Atlantic. So it explains why Russia had Alaska. So I don't know if you find that interesting, but I just thought I'd share that one. So early 1700s, most of North America was decimated by a cataclysm. Much like Latin America, all the Antarctic regions were destroyed prior to those two cataclysms. A series of smaller cataclysms decimated the Mediterranean reefs in the Middle East and South Asia. So yeah. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day. I might upload these other videos, edit them, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Bye now. Like, share, subscribe, or not. Thank you. Bye. I'm just going to leave this book, this link in the descriptions for anyone that might be interested in reading about the Tartarian history and the capital cities, what they were like. Contains a bit of information about it. Thanks, bye.